This police sergeant was shot in a totally unprovoked ambush attack. He's here to talk about the shooting, his recovery afterwards, and how it inspired him to help injured first responders and those injured by violence throughout the community. Welcome to the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. In the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, we are joined by special guests talking about their experiences, the realities of investigating crimes, plus those who have experienced horrendous trauma. Police, first responders, military, and victims of crime share their stories. Hi, I'm John J. Wiley. In addition to being a broadcaster, I'm also a retired police sergeant. Be sure to check out our website, letradio.com, and also like us on Facebook. Search for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. You can find us on Facebook. Just search for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show and be sure to click like. Calling us from the great state of Missouri, Sergeant Charles Lowe on the phone. Sergeant Lowe, thanks so much for joining us on the Law Enforcement Show. Very much appreciated.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I definitely appreciate it.
This has been something that's been in the works for a while. We had his wife on a show a while ago. And by the way, if you haven't heard that episode, look for the one with Kelly Lowe, a very powerful woman doing some great things. And she said, you got to talk to my husband. And we've been trying to make this happen for a couple months, to be honest with you. So I'm glad we finally got this opportunity nailed down. Yes,
sir. Me too. A lot of good things are happening, so I'm just excited about everything that's been happening.
Well, you're a career law enforcement officer. You've been doing this for quite a while, haven't you?
Yes, actually, in February of this year, I just hit my 20 years of service, so it's an exciting time for me and my family as well.
Are you in a department where you can retire at 20, or do you have to go to 25?
Actually, I am on a department I can retire at 20, yes, sir.
Oh, you're a short timer where, like, don't mess with me, I can leave all the papers in today.
There you go.
That was what we always called freedom back in the day. We're so jealous of the guys who are old timers. We're going to talk about some serious things. For people that don't know, Sergeant Lowe was ambushed and shot in a totally unprovoked attack. When was that?
It actually was July 2015, July 14th of 2015 to be exact.
And I saw videos of it. We're going to try to get copies of video. I think it was from a surveillance camera in the area. And these sort of things happen so fast. They almost seem to come out of nowhere. We're going to talk about your shooting in depth in a moment. But one of the things that I do know about you is this has inspired you to do some things to try to help injured law enforcement officers, injured first responders, and people of all walks of life who have been injured by acts of violence, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And what's the name of your organization?
The name of the organization is Project HURT, H-U-R-T, and the HURT stands for Healing, Uplift, Restore, and Transition. And
where can people get more information about Project HURT?
We have a website, projecthurt.org, O-R-G. And we're also very active on Facebook as well. And
is that just look for Project HURT on Facebook?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
All right. We'll talk more about that later on because they're doing some pretty outstanding things that you don't want to miss. I want to go back to, was it 2015? You had been on the job, I guess, at that point, probably about 15 years, somewhere around that?
Correct. About 15 to 16 years at that point. Correct.
So you're by no stretch a rookie. When you've been on the job in policing for a long time in a major department, you've seen pretty much everything by that point, and it's kind of hard for people to launch an unprovoked surprise attack on you, isn't it?
I would like to think so, but like I say, sometimes things are beyond our control.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I was getting at, is no matter how good you are, no matter how much experience you have, no matter how much training you do, things are going to pop up that you would totally unexpect, and at least for me, when they happen to me, it's like, I can't believe this is happening.
Correct. It definitely was a moment of surreal, like that this really just happened, or am I going through this? And like you said, it happened so fast, and I definitely was in the tunnel vision and the slow motion, and all that played out in my head as things happened.
What was happening? It was nighttime, I believe.
Yes, it was. It literally was like 4:30 in the morning. Kind of to set the tone. I had previously worked a regular police department shift. I got off at 2 in the morning then, and then I went straight to my extra duty or secondary, as we call it in our area, and the premise of the overtime or secondary or moonlighting, if you will, is to hang out in this neighborhood. It's an entertainment district in the Midwest of Missouri. A lot of bars, clubs, restaurants, etc. And pretty much the premise is to make sure these businesses don't get messed with. Most of the businesses have glass fronts. So in the past, people have, thrown glass and, thrown things to damage a lot of property and burglarize these places. So they hire all-duty policemen to hang out up there and keep all these evildoers away.
And that's something that we did in Baltimore, too, that was sanctioned by the city. They knew about it. They had to have the permission of the city and the department, and it was all on the up and up. It wasn't something that was done underhanded or on the slide.
No, correct. No, it's something we sign up for through the department, and then you kind of put your hours in through a schedule, if you will, and you go get your hours from there.
Were you in uniform at the time?
Yes, sir. Full uniform.
And were you in a departmental vehicle, or were you standing on the street, or what were you doing?
So actually, it was in my personal vehicle, but there was moments where I would have to do, we call it doing a round. So I make sure all the doors were locked, and I was in the back of the area I was in is a patio area. I had to secure all of that little area or premises, if you will. And then once I secure it, you pretty much kind of stay awake at that point because it's pretty. Up until that point, it was a pretty lame secondary, right? It's just an easy way to make extra money, but use there for a good purpose. And so the toughest part of that extra duty really was staying awake at that time of morning.
I got memories of midnight shift. I hated midnight shift. Even when I was a rookie, just trying. And it was so it was nonstop busy. Then all of a sudden, someone flipped a switch and it went to absolute dead quiet. And then the closer you get to 6 a.m., it's the harder it is to stay awake.
Correct. Absolutely.
To tell you a really quick story, I was driving a police car, getting ready to head back to our district, working the midnight shift, and first vehicle at a red light. And you know how when you fall asleep, you sometimes hear sounds in the background and you incorporate them in your dreams?
Yeah.
Well, apparently I fell asleep at the red light in the police car, and the light had turned green, and people were blowing a horn at me to move. And some guy came and rapped on the window "Are you okay?" I was like, "What?" It was the hardest thing in the world, staying awake.
Yes, absolutely.
And some people thrived on it. I always found it difficult. So you were in a quiet neighborhood. Once things shut down, you're basically keeping an eye on all the businesses, making sure everything is secure and quiet and nothing bad going on. And it's not an environment where you'd expect something violent to happen, correct?
No. Like I say, in this particular neighborhood that this happened in, actually is some of the wealthiest and more well-to-do individuals that live in this particular neighborhood. So it's about a far cry from anything that I would expect for this type of activity to happen. Let me just say that.
And that goes to a point that I often tell people. As a matter of fact, I saw someone post something on Facebook today, and they're talking about Chicago, and they're talking about how not all of Chicago is violent. There's some very, very nice neighborhoods. And I really wanted to reply back to them, yeah, it's a nice neighborhood, but you forget violent criminals steal cars and they go to nice neighborhoods. So really, you could be in a really nice neighborhood, a crime-free neighborhood, and you could be in a fight for your life within a matter of moments.
Absolutely. And what happens, here in Missouri, especially in our department, a lot of neighborhoods become kind of property-rich environments for those that want to kind of make it easy, like you say, steal a car, do a burglary, unfortunately try to rob somebody, stuff like that. So our presence in these entertainment districts or areas are really high because it is a property-rich environment. And sometimes people get really comfortable and kind of let their guard down. They won't lock their doors, leave their purses in the car, stuff like this. And so as a police department, that really makes our job a little harder sometimes to keep people safe when people aren't doing all the correct safety measures all the time.
Well, a lot of times people think it's not going to happen to me. I'm in a great neighborhood, or I'm in a tourist environment where a lot of tourists go, and they have no idea. And you used a great term, Charles, is that a target-rich environment. One thing I've learned, even through nature and watching documentaries, even the biggest predators, the strongest predators, let's use a lion as an example, they wait for the gazelle, the impala that's got a little bit of a limp. They look for the prey that's going to least likely put up a fight, that they get the most reward from, because the slightest chance of injury can be death for them. And it's not much different with human beings. When you have people who are looking for easy targets that are violent people, everybody is potential prey. We're talking with Sergeant Charles Lowe about the night he was ambushed and shot. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. If you're on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app, be sure to look for me and follow me. My name's John, the letter J, Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y. You can also search for @LET Radio Show. That's John J. Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y, @LET Radio Show on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app.
I am Meg Marie O'Rourke from Harmony with Food. Do you ever wonder what foods you should or should not be consuming based on your own unique needs? At Harmony with Food, we are now able to determine exactly what foods we should or should not be consuming through advanced testing. Test, don't guess is the motto at Harmony with Food's BioUnique Boutique program. It has never been easier than now to determine what food, drinks, and supplements you need for your individualized needs. Head over to harmonywithfood.com and click on the testing tab.
This portion of the Law Enforcement Today radio show is brought to you in part by Pet Rescue Life Facebook page. Everyone's welcome at the Pet Rescue Life Facebook page, where you'll find fun, informative, and enjoyable posts daily. Purebred, mixed breeds, rescues, we love them all. Be sure to like the Pet Rescue Life Facebook page. Return to our conversation with Sergeant Charles Lowe, calling us from Missouri. He was shot in an ambush attack while working secondary employment or secondary duty as a uniformed police officer. The night this happened, or I should say early morning, we're talking, right around 4 o'clock in the morning time frame?
Correct, Jack. Actually, it was about 4:30 in the morning.
And really nothing is happening at that time. It's a dead time pretty much everywhere. Yes,
it got pretty slow, if you will. And like I say, pretty much I'm just literally almost watching the grass grow at this point. But in the neighborhood, just kind of sitting there.
So you're sitting there in your personal car, in uniform, keep an eye on these businesses in its entertainment district of the area where you work as a police sergeant. And what happened next?
So I see two guys standing on a corner, maybe 60 to 80 feet from where I was parked. Now I'm sitting there in the middle of this entertainment district. I'm in the middle of the street, parked right in front of the fire hydrant, across the street from the glass front businesses. So about 60 to 80 feet from me, just to the east of me, I see two guys standing on the corner, right next to one of the bars. Now, they really weren't paying particular attention to me, but they did kind of glance over at me.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to put your mind in a time frame. So this is July 2015. This is about 10 months after Ferguson. So community relations with people were still pretty tense.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were still very confrontational. If you just even ask them a question, like, what's your pedigree information, a lot of aggression. And so it's 4:30 in the morning. I see these two guys standing there. They kind of look over at me. They continue talking. Then literally, as soon as I saw them, every hair on my body stood up and I had goosebumps. And I got all this anxiety in my head and stomach about my stomach. And I can't figure out why I feel so, basically, anxiety-filled about their presence. I'm just looking at them.
They were giving off those vibes, right? Where it's making the alarm bells go off in your head. Something's not right with these cats.
Yes, exactly. All the warning signs are going on, but I don't know what I'm looking at yet. Because right now, it's just two guys sitting on the corner. So I'm scratching my head like, when I'm having this overwhelming feeling, right? And so the guys continue talking maybe another 15, 20 seconds. Then they walk down the street, they make a right, and just go off in the darkness. And so my anxiety went down for a second. As soon as they went off in the darkness, I couldn't see them anymore, I literally heard the voice of God say, "Put your vest back on." So in July 2015, like many cities around Missouri and around the United States, it's very hot and humid. And even like this particular night, it had to be like 90 degrees this night. Even though it was 4 in the morning, it was just a hot, muggy night, hot, muggy day. And like I said, I just was hot in my uniform. I already worked a long shift with the police department. I got out there and came straight here. So at this point, I just wanted some relief.
I don't blame you at all. It was one of the worst things in the world wearing that soft body armor. And in summertime, it gets so hot and smelly. It comes right up from under your shirt. It's
yes.
It's like I could not wait to take that thing off. And it was almost like a mental undressing for me. transitioning to husband-father mode, when you took the Velcro for the soft body armor, okay, I can change my mindset a little bit. So I can see that you want to take it off when you have a chance. But something, you said God told you, let's put this back on. Let's not waste time. Something's not right here.
Correct. So back then I had an outside vest cover. So now my vest is in the passenger seat of my car. So I'm looking at my vest like, why did I just hear that, right? So now I'm battling with God, like, why did you put my vest back on? So like a spoiled little kid, I laugh at myself now. I'm like, all right, God, I put it back on. Just leave me alone, right? So I put my vest back on, strap back on, and literally 5 minutes later, I see the same two guys still in the corner, but now they're back to me and they're looking up the street. But I can't see what they're looking at because my view is blocked by the building. So at about 5 or 10 seconds, they're greeted by a third male that comes down, kind of walks down to them, and they kind of greet each other. They kind of glance over at me. Once again, the anxiety came back, butterflies in my stomach came back. So now I'm sitting up in my front seat of my car. I didn't get out. I'm sitting up in my car trying to figure out what am I looking at. Because the anxiety came back, and it's on high. Like, I'm on red alert right now. I'm just looking at them. There's just 3 black males sitting on the corner, just standing there. Nothing particular about them, just standing there. They continue talking maybe another 15, 20 seconds, and walk down the street again, and actually turn up the block. And so, with relations being so tense back then, like say 10 minutes after Ferguson, my mindset for a second was to get out of the car and ask the guys, hey, you looking for the bus stop? Or, well, you guys, you need help? I see you circling the block. But I thought about, you know what? I don't feel like aggression.
Right.
I don't feel like hearing, officer, why are you harassing us? We heard that so much back then.
Oh, yeah, it was nonstop.
Yeah, and literally, the area I'm in is less than 5 miles from Ferguson, right? So it was still very tense. So I was like, you know what? I just don't want to be adversary tonight. So I'm just going to let them be, and let them figure out where they need to go. I don't know if that'll change anything, but I kind of think about that as some of the things played out in my head.
But so the whole time, people understand you're in your personal vehicle, but you're in your police uniform.
Yes.
And people
absolutely.
can see that you're in your police uniform. I mean, it wouldn't be a great mystery, would it?
Correct. Not only were my lights on, my front lights, but I was right underneath a street light. My car didn't have tinted windows, and so my uniform and everything was full to be seen by anybody that wanted to look. I wasn't hiding anything about me that night.
I don't find this unusual at all, but when I try to talk to people who've never been in police work and say there's something about these guys' behavior that made my police instincts raise the alarm bells in my head if something wasn't right, I can't quite explain it. But when I talk to other police and they say, yeah, I know exactly what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it's not, people love to go and, it's racial profiling. It's this, it's that. It's got nothing to do with that. It's got something to do with the people's behavior and the way they carry it. You know what it is a lot of times, Charles? It's the way they won't look at you.
That's a true story.
Because when you're police in uniform, people love to, like, we called it signify back in the day. They love to acknowledge you and say, hey, what's going on? Or you ain't nothing or whatever. When they purposely do their best not to look at you or almost make it look like they're looking at you sideways, that's like a big red flag.
Yes. And I don't know what particularly they were doing, but my body reacted to presence immediately. And it reacted so, like I said, so strongly, I didn't even know what I was looking at quite yet. Because it's not like they had a gun in their hand, they didn't have cop killer shirts and underwear, just giant pants, T-shirts, and shorts. Like, that's all I'm looking at. So I'm just trying to see, or try to figure out at that point what the heck is going on.
And by the way, criminals don't wear signs that say, hey, I'm a criminal, I'm a drug dealer. Well, back in the day, a lot of them would wear outfits that only drug dealers would wear. It made it easier. Yeah. And drive a vehicle that no one else can afford in the neighborhood, but they got it. So, but everybody else, especially people who are doing street crime, don't want their presence known. Again, we go back to the predator and prey. When they're trying to size up potential prey, they do not want to alert people that they are planning violence. This is the Law Enforcement Today Show. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. This portion of the Law Enforcement Today radio show is brought to you in part by Pet Rescue Life Facebook page. Everyone's welcome at the Pet Rescue Life Facebook page, where you'll find fun, informative, and enjoyable posts daily. Purebred, mixed breeds, rescues, we love them all. Be sure to like the Pet Rescue Life Facebook page. If you've missed past episodes of the Law Enforcement Today show, never fear. You can listen to them online. Just go to our website, lawenforcementtoday.com, or download our free app, also available on our website. That's lawenforcementtoday.com. Back to our conversation with Sergeant Charles Lowe, Police Sergeant Charles Lowe. Back in 2015, ambushed and shot in a totally unprovoked attack. Charles, you're talking about all the setup and all the things about these guys' behavior. Time, place, location, the way they're carrying themselves, that the alarm bells are going off your head. And you heard what you described as the voice of God saying, put your soft body armor on, put your vest on. And you did.
Thankfully, I did. Yes, sir.
So what happened next?
So after the guys kind of circled the block twice, after the second time, like I say, after the first time I put my vest on, after they circled me the second time, I still stayed in my car. I just trying to process why I was excited about their presence. All of a sudden, maybe 5 minutes after the second time I saw these guys, I see a four-door Ford comes off the street that they were standing by. It's coming my direction. I'm not alarmed by the car in particularly. I actually kind of laughed at the car because as the car got closer to me, the car kind of jerked like it was a stick shift, like somebody had missed the clutch, like it was jerking. I remember looking at the car, kind of laughing, like, some guy asleep missed the clutch, right? Then all of a sudden this car, which I thought would just drive past me like all the other cars do, you know, in doing this extra duty, all of a sudden it's in front of me. So now I sit up in front of my car like, what's going on? So my first thought was, I'm in an entertainment district. You know, the reality is there's a lot of, you know, yuppies. I actually thought a yuppie was out of the car and asking for directions.
Yep.
By asking like a really silly question. Like, you know, those are law enforcement. Sometimes people ask you crazy questions at different times. That's what I thought. But then I was alarmed by it even more. Guys, like, if you just want to ask me a question, why don't you pull alongside of me? I was the only car on the whole street, on that side of the street. Why don't you just pull alongside of me? Why don't you block me in? And I can't see inside their vehicle yet because they have tinted windows. So now all the goosebumps are out. All my hands on my hands on the top of my holster. I'm just trying to process all of this I'm looking at. So finally, their passenger door swings open. Their dome light comes on, and now I finally can see inside the vehicle. I look over the passenger. The passenger had face and body turned away from me. Only thing I recognize of the passenger is the silhouette of his clothing, was matching one of the guys that was just standing on the street. I look at the two guys in the back seat, which are the same two guys I just saw with the guy in the passenger seat, the three guys that were just standing out there 5 minutes before. I kind of scan over the driver. The driver is kind of looking behind the rear seat at me. And the only thing I think in my head is, well, who the heck is that guy? But he turns his head real fast, like he doesn't want to look at me.
Right.
So when I glance back over at the passenger, like, what the heck is this problem? By the time I glance back over the passenger starts to turn his head toward me. As he turned his head toward me, I realized he has a black bandana wrapped around his face. As his hand gets out of the car, his right hand drops. He has a gun in his hand. He immediately starts shooting. Either his first or second shot hit me on the right side of my chest. I knew I was shot. So at that point, I immediately started praying. In my head, it felt like there was molasses between my gun and the holster. It felt like it took forever to get me to a raised pistol. So I finally get my gun out. He's in the middle of my car now. I know I'm hit. At this point, I'm praying to God to keep me alert during this gunfight and to keep me alive. The only thing I'm thinking about at this point is my son, who after he was 15, was 19 months old. So I'm thinking to God, keep me conscious during this gunfight, because if I die, that's your will, God. My son won't even remember me. So I'm praying. Keep me alive doing this. So as he's shooting at me, I'm realizing a couple things as I'm praying, and I'm still shooting at him. I don't know my rounds will even penetrate my windshield, but I knew his rounds were coming in. So I'm like, I got to do something. So I'm just shooting through my front windshield at the suspect at this point. He's sliding over to my left. So at this point, he started off on my passenger side of my car, but he's sliding over. to my driver's side. And the only thing I'm thinking is, he's coming around to give me a headshot. He's coming around to my driver's side. So I'm like, all right. So I'm doing everything at this point.
The thought came to you that this guy is not just shooting at you; he's moving towards trying to kill you, to a kill shot.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's a startling feeling and revelation. We always say, and people say when you hear police say, "I feared for my life." Yeah, and there's only no other way to describe it. When you get the realization this person's actually trying to murder you, that's the only way you can describe it. I've never found another term that fits that.
And this was me this particular night. Yes, it was. So I'm processing all of this. I realize he's sliding over. So now he's perpendicular to me. He's literally standing right above my hood, still shooting at me. And I'm trying to figure out, I'm shooting at him, but it doesn't seem like my rounds are even hitting him or even affecting him. So at one point while I'm shooting at him, doing my shooting fire, he kind of ducks down. When he pops back up, things are moving in so slow motion. I see his bandana fall off his face when he pops back up. And so I'm like, all right, I see his face. I remember I was taking a snapshot of that moment when the bandana fell off his face. The only thing I think about is, God, keep me conscious long enough so I can tell the truth what this guy looks like.
Right.
That's the only thing I'm thinking about. And so he starts to, I continue shooting at him. He starts to run off a little bit. As he's running off, I'm like, oh, good, finally, he stopped shooting at me. But as he runs off, he lets off one more round kind of over his shoulder. But continues to run off as he's shooting. And as he does this, I'm so hyper-vigilant of everything that's going on right now. I can see the round or projectile leave his gun. And it's coming right to my driver's side window. Besides the video of my shooting, I also have some of the still photos from each of you. And you can see the round that hit my driver's side window. I'm looking at this round, coming toward me, and I'm thinking to God, all right, God, this is my headshot. All right, protect me, God. I'm praying. I'm like, all right, God. I'm preparing for impact. As I'm watching the round hit the glass of my driver's side window, and by the grace of God, it made a strange left turn, and all of a sudden, ended up hitting the front molding of the inside of my car. It made a crazy crazy left turn. And to this day, I still can't explain it, but I do thank God every day that bullet didn't continue straight. All right?
Because that would have been a headshot.
Yes, it would have been.
And you already shot at this point.
Yes, I was shot the right side of my chest.
One of the things you talked about in this attack, and I've heard this from so many people, and I can tell you in my own scenarios, situations of deadly force where people are shooting at you, time for me totally slowed down. It's like a time warp, and I didn't hear things in the background the way I should, and I didn't focus on anything else but the threat. You could have had the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders marching to my right, and I'd have no idea because I was so focused on the imminent threat. But one of the things you said, Charles, that really hit home for me is these like real quick little tiny pocket prayers. I don't know how to describe them in another way. And it's if people had any idea how often I prayed in a patrol car, the worst is like preparing to go on drug raids or search and seizure warrants where you know there's potential for violence. That was always a lengthy prayer. But when bad stuff was happening, when stuff hit the fan, it was a real quick, God help me.
Yes.
And I can't describe why, but you just know that this is a bad situation.
Correct. Absolutely.
So this guy has shot at you about how many times at this point?
So at this point, including his last shot that you ran off, he shot at me 6 times.
That's an awful lot. And by the way, and I don't have the exact statistics, but for the majority of police-involved shootings, or officer-involved shootings is the term they use, they're within 5 to 7 feet, and they're over with in 2 or 3 seconds.
Yes.
So to have someone in a prolonged gunfight, and yes, 6, 10, 15, 20 seconds is an eternity in a gunfight.
Yes,
we're talking with Police Sergeant Charles Lowe, talking about the night he was ambushed and shot in an unprovoked attack. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. If you want Want to be a guest on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show? Simply contact us. It couldn't be easier. You can send us a message on Facebook. Look for and like the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show page, or email jay@letradio.com. That's JAY@letradio.com. I'm John J. Wiley, joined on the phone with Police Sergeant Charles Lowe. To recap, if you're just joining us, he was ambushed and shot in an unprovoked attack in Missouri in 2015. When we left before the break, Charles, you talked about 6 shots being fired by him, and that you weren't sure and that's a common theme for us, that your gun doesn't work or the bullets aren't hitting him or what. I don't know if I'm hitting bricks in the background or what I'm doing. At least that was for me. The guy took off. What did you do at that point?
So basically what I did at that point, I'm just trying to process all the stuff in my head. I remember putting the car in drive. I remember literally driving the car with my knees. I had with my other left hand, I was talking to the dispatcher on my military radio. Told the dispatcher I was shot, told him my location, told the dispatcher, what was going on. And so when the shooting started, like I said, my windows were rolled up, so it was a loud ringing in my ear. So the dispatcher literally sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher, like wonk, 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 wonk. And so I knew officers were en route because I could hear them key up from time to time in between the pauses of the dispatcher. But I couldn't understand what they were saying either. I just knew somebody was en route. So I followed behind the individual that shot me, maybe about a half a block. He ended up ducking off in a parking garage. And so I ended up driving back around the neighborhood, looking for the car that the other 2 guys are in. By the time I drove back there, I was gone. And so literally, I got out the car. I looked to the west of my location where the shooting started, and 8 police cars and EMS all showed at the exact same time. And so first set of officers ran up to me and said, "Hey, where'd he go?" I said, "Hey, I think he's in the parking garage." Next set of officers said, "Hey, Sergeant, he shot." I literally take off all my equipment, take off my vest, my shirt, my duty belt, kind of doing the hokey pokey in the middle of the street. Yep. EMS officers kind of had the flashlights out. Said, "Sergeant, where you shot everybody?" "I don't know. I think I'm hit somewhere." I hear one officer say, "Hey, Sergeant, I see blood." So I look down on the right side. It's kind of blood kind of trickling down. I look at EMS and I said, I don't know what they're supposed to look or feel like, right? And EMS says, and look at it for a second and like, "I don't know, but you're going to the hospital," right? Because they see the blood. So I kind of took a side step right back where my equipment was at, and I see my vest. It's hard to describe, but the top part of my vest almost looks like a crumbed up sheet of paper. It's really hard to describe. And so I'm looking at my vest like, hell? So I kind of straighten my vest out a little bit, and as I straighten it out, I see a gold round sitting in the back of the vest, right? So I put the vest down. I look up at everybody. I said, "Wow, I think my vest took the round." Everybody turned white as ghost, right? So I didn't know if I was dead or alive. By the grace of God, like I say, that round did hit the vest. My x-rays were negative, and literally within an hour of me getting shot, I was at home watching news clips of what had happened to me. And it's still in my head, was still surreal. Like, why is this happening? All these things were in my head. To play the next 10 to 12 days out, I've been to other shootings, and I remember telling my wife, like, just give me some time to process what happened.
Right.
And my wife's very patient. Like I say, she'd been a veteran, spouse, if you will. At that point, 16 plus years, almost 16 years on the police department. So she said, okay. But, those that know my wife, she'd be very direct. So maybe about 10, 12 days after my shooting, wife comes to me and says, "Hey, let's go back to the neighborhood where we got shot, because there's a dessert place we like to go to. And we used to go there, we used to frequent this dessert place before. And so, this place right now is not a good place for me." So I'm like, "No, I don't go back there," right? So she comes back a little bit later and says, "Hey, I bet your son love to go back to the neighborhood and hang out by that water fountain." And that water fountain was like 40 feet from where I got shot. So I'm like, "No, Kelly, I don't think I feel good about that," right? So literally she comes back the later same day, like, "Hey, how about you just drive me to get some desserts, some cupcakes, and then we'll get out of there real fast."
And really, this, I know your wife. This had nothing to do with the cupcakes or dessert. Had nothing to do with that. It was about getting you back on a saddle, so to speak.
Yes, and I didn't know at the time. I thought my wife was tripping. I was like, why is she so persistent about getting these dang cupcakes? But I must admit, when she gave me the last idea just driving up there, I'm like, the fat kid in me kind of wants some cupcakes, right? So I'm like...
Right now, I'm craving cupcakes. You're killing me.
Yeah.
You got to stop talking about it.
So we go up there, and usually you run in, run out, literally gone in like 90 seconds. And so this particular day, real fast, the cupcake place was packed. There's like 20 people in there. So my wife looks at me. She must have turned my face. She says, I swear I'll be right back, right? So I'm sitting there with my son in the car. He's strapped in the back. I sit in the car for about 2 minutes. The anxiety's getting so high, I just can't do it. I grab my son. We kind of walk around just a little bit. I had to walk through the water fountain where my wife had mentioned. I did think I could do it. The water fountain literally is like 40 feet from where I got shot. So I remember playing with my son there for like literally a minute and kind of looking over in the area where I got shot. And my anxiety just getting higher and higher. I'm sort of sweat. I'm like, okay, I can't do this, right? So I grab my son, 19 months, walk back to the car. I strap him in. As I walk back to the driver's side, my wife's coming out with the cupcake. She holds up to the seat. We can get out of here, right? So it started to get dark in this particular neighborhood, and she driving down the street with the lights on. Another car wants my spot, so I put that blinker on, take my spot. I'm in the entertainment area, so people are walking in front of my car and behind my car and the side of my car. I literally feel like the whole world's coming on top of me, and I lost it. I remember screaming at the top of my lungs, and to this day, I have no idea what I was screaming about. All that I remember is my wife touching my shoulder, saying, Charles, what are you doing? Your son's in this car. I turn around. My son's crying profusely. I felt like the size of an ant. I felt like nothing. All that I remember doing is looking at my wife, and I asked her, what just happened? My wife looked at me in my eye, and she says, I know what happened. You need to talk to somebody. And at that point, I didn't know if I was coming back to the police department or not. Yeah. I didn't know if I could physically, mentally do it. But I knew for my family, I had to talk to somebody to get some help. Because I couldn't keep having these outbursts anymore.
And that's what they wound up being for me. It seemed to someone on the outside that I had become, like almost overnight, a very angry person. And it wasn't that at all. It wasn't anger. It was... when it's uncontrolled adrenaline is going on, it's just like I'm trying to stop the whole world so I can just breathe a little bit. Correct.
Absolutely. But I got some help, talked to stress coaches, talked to some trauma counselors. And I told my wife, while all this was going on, I started reaching out to other officers that I knew had been involved in shootings. And I felt my best when I first started talking to them in a kind of a peer support setting. Emotionally, they told me things that I had felt. So I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. And so I no longer had the idea like I was going crazy or I was having these isolated feelings for no reason. And it kind of birthed the Project Hurt. And what came out of that, about 14 months after my shooting, another sergeant that I worked with actually got ambushed and shot in the face twice, and he survived. And I started talking to him. I told him things he would experience, and sure stuff happened. He would call me every couple of days saying, oh, my God, you said that would happen, and it happened.
Yeah.
And so we were like, how do we get on a path to talk to other officers outside the police department in the peer support setting? And that was the birth of Project Hurt, a peer support group for wounded and injured officers and officers dealing with cumulative stress.
And that's something that was so needed is for us to just talk to each other and say, are you all right? Because I wasn't always all right. And here's what happened to me. And here's what I had to do. And here's where I'm at today. Would you describe your life today as okay or still bothered? Or what term would you use?
So I would consider my life or my term blessed. I was actually able to come back to work about 4 or 5 months after my shooting. I know a lot of officers are not physically or mentally able to come back, so I do thank God for putting me in a good place to come back to work. Like I said, I now have 20 years on in my police department and making plans for retirement hopefully in the next 5 to 8 years.
I can't wait to hear about your retirement. Before we leave, Sergeant Lowe, give people your website address one more time and get more information.
projecthurt.org.
And you're also on Facebook. Just do a search for Project Hurt, HURT. We're going to have you back on the show later on another day, because I know there's so many things you're doing with Project Hurt, with other law enforcement officers in the community. I want to thank you so much for telling your story to us today. It's very much appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
I'd like to thank our guests for coming on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. The Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show is a nationally syndicated weekly radio show broadcast on numerous AM and FM radio stations across the country. We're always adding more affiliate stations. If you enjoyed the podcast version of the show, which is always free, please do me a favor and tell a friend or two or three. I'll be back in just a few days with another episode of the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show and podcast. Until then, this is John J. Wiley. See ya.